Hi everybody, it's Sandi Clarkson here with you for my Creative Scrapbook, and I'm going to be doing just kind of a layout share tutorial for you on a few of my projects from the February limited edition kit. As you know, this kit features the 49 and Market Echoes of Time collection, created by Joanne Bain, and it's beautiful, it's vintagey, so it's shabby chic, it's feminine, romantic. So all of those kind of photos that you have, grab them, and this will be just a beautiful kit to use. So I wasn't able to do process videos this month as much. I only did one just for multiple reasons, but this is why I'm coming back and doing a layout share for you. So this was the first one that I created, and I used one of the mixed media pages, or it's the B side. You know, the A side was probably something with floral clusters along the sides, but I've kind of forgotten. I did mount it on a piece of white cardstock because I tore away part of the bottom, because I wanted to add this striped piece down here so I could have a little bit of pattern mixing. And it was a little more difficult to do pattern mixing. Well, not really, but most of the centers of the paper are more what you'd say solid, or what Dennis Bruton calls, you know, not solids. But anyway, I thought this would be a great, you know, base to use, and then I could just add a little bit of stripe here at the bottom. So I just tore the paper and then tucked this striped paper in, so it's about 3 inches of striped paper. So what I did first of all was kind of figure out where I wanted my photos to be, and, you know, kind of my clusters. And from there, I was able to kind of figure out where to use the stencil. And so this was the stencil in this month's kit, and it's by Little Birdie, and it's called Leafy something, Leaf Lattice is what it's called. And so I just went up here and down here, and I did over here too, but it went away. I used some of the camouflage dye ink from 49 and Market. This is one of the colors from the new release, so I was actually using it before it got released, so that was kind of fun. And it's really pretty. It makes a nice design, and so I highly recommend it to use with your pages this month. So I picked a couple of the frames, which are from the die cut pack, and that would be this one right here. And it was a couple of these that I used, and I already had one of my photos printed out, and these are just AI generated or modified photos from one of the online galleries. And I made one a little smaller because the two frames are not exactly the same size. And then I wanted to have just kind of a, you know, double image. I really like using double images sometimes. So underneath the frames, I've added in a ticket, which was from the ephemera pack, and then one of the torn strips, also from the ephemera pack. And then I used the purple note card, which is this one right here. And so that's kind of what's behind there. And then the floral clusters that you see here, and the little floral here, this cluster, this one, the vine, the leaves, and these over here, that these leaves and the gear, those are all from the laser packs. And so there's lots of clusters already done in this pack, and I think I've used every single one of them except for this one I have left. That is so pretty, and I probably could have found a place to stick it, but I thought I'd keep it and maybe use it on a card or something like that. That'd be just really pretty on a white card along with something. And I had one random little leaf, but I do have more, you know, still in my package here. So there's plenty of product, is what I'm trying to say. The little butterflies are also from the laser cuts, and they're just popped up on foam dots. And then my florals are from the Prima package. And what was that package called? I forgot, but it doesn't matter. It's the one that's included in your kit. There's this little clock that is from the die cut pack, and then there was a little note card down here that I also tucked in. And I think I trimmed it away from something that I used up above. But anyway, it turned out really pretty. And then I also, for my title, I used this month's die cut that comes already cut in your kit, and it's white. And so I colorized it with some inks, and I thought, you know, that I would go with the darker tone. And so I've used this Sangria from 49 and Market, which is also one of the new inks from, you know, this month's release with them. And so it's kind of this almost reddishy wine, not wine, but it's a very dark purple. And you can see that there. And then I know, oh, here's my swatch of it. I haven't put my re-inker on there yet. But so you can see it has more red undertones. But anyway, I thought that was really pretty, and I tried to make it kind of an ombre effect. And then I used one of the pipes down the side here, and there's a clock underneath, and I didn't necessarily want that in there since I had one over here. So I put one of the die cuts on top of that right there. And I think the last little thing I did was put that little gear right there. And then I used some watered down white acrylic paint, you know, to shabby everything up and kind of blend it together and dab it on my flowers. And my splattering, I literally did with my eyes closed. Not kidding. The reason I chose this paper, which I forgot to tell you, is I really liked that stripe at the top because it was kind of like this dark teal or green color. And I thought that would be a nice mirror for this stripe paper that I wanted to use down there. So I think that's about everything on that one. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And then project number 2, I've actually done a process video on, so it'll be on my channel. And it's really a very simple page. This paper is one of what I call the hero papers of the collection. Has a very large white frame right here, and then beautiful floral clusters on the sides. And so you literally don't need much of anything except for a nice photograph, a title, and then journaling if you want to. So what I did was just create layers behind my photo. For my photo matting, I chose one of the papers, but I left this little lacy edge at the bottom. And then, you know, I've used a stopwatch frame, this cute little small frame, which these are from the ephemera pack, as is the ticket, and then this little memo card. And then there's another note card back there, and it's the one with the green border to it. So it'd be this one right here. I hated to cover up that purple, which you actually could cut away if you wanted to, because there's not that much showing. And then kind of last minute, I decided to add in that half doily right there. That's from the die cut pack. And then over here, I used a little owl and put some twine on him. And then I've used the Prima flowers, and I've tucked in the little buds from the Little Birdie ivory flowers, just to add a little something that's not too big. And that just kind of contributed to these, you know, little floral groupings. So that's a laser cut, that's a laser cut. And then, you know, I added this little butterfly right up there. And then I splattered with white paint. And when that dried, I did the pearls. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the stenciling. Before everything went down, I did do the stenciling. And I used, what did I use? I used Twilight. I used a 13 art stencil from my stash, and I just took one of my brushes, you know, and made the design over here, and then some up here on that side over there, knowing I didn't really need too much, but I just kind of used that, and I think it really just added one more layer. Dennis Bruton said this morning on one of the releases that one of his timber and tweed papers has like 200 layers of images, you know, in the paper. So always add layers. And then, you know, the little gear at the bottom. So if you have any questions on this one, just leave me a message below. And this one's a little more interesting. It would have been a disaster to video because I was kind of a disaster doing it. But what I decided was I wanted to use the collage paper and do it in a different way. That comes in a pack of 4 from Little Birdie. And so this was the same design. And what I did was I just used one of my brushes, and I wet it really good, and then I just wet the paper, you know, along a tear line, thinking that I'm going to save these little birds that I ultimately cover up. But, you know, initially I was trying to save them, and I did that, and when it was good and moist, then I was able to tear the paper in half and have that nice torn edge. And then I had, you know, left over this striped paper from the first project, and so it's about 9 by 12. And after these were torn, then I adhered them to the striped paper using my Distress Collage Medium from Ranger. And it was kind of a mess because it's a big piece of paper to be collaging, but I just kind of used some wax paper that I could throw away. So I did cover the entire area instead of just here and there, because I knew I would put media on top of it. So I went ahead and collaged all of it and did this corner and then did this corner. And then after that was good and dry, then I came back and I tore my striped paper, you know, from edge to edge. If you don't feel brave enough to do that, then just take your scissors and just cut, you know, a wavy line between your papers, and then distress them with your distress tool, or wet your edges and roll them up a little bit. You know, it's easy enough to do. I even thought about doing that myself, but I just said, no, I'm going to go for it because, you know, most of it's going to be covered up probably with, you know, product. And so that's how I prepared that part. And then this base is just white cardstock from my stash, and it's mixed media paper. And so I just added color using the Rainforest dye ink for $49 in Market, and just a brush, and I just came from the edge and went in about 3 inches, you know, from top to bottom, and didn't know, I figured I was going to have some white space here, so I went, you know, over a little bit more up there, you know. So I did that, and I just literally flipped it around, and I did the other side the same way, and got coverage, you know, on both areas. And then I came along with my sprayer, my bottle of water, and I just dripped water along the edges. And then I took a paper towel, a dry paper towel, and laid it across, you know, and let it rest there a minute, and then pulled it up. And of course that pulls away the dye ink, you know, as you do it. And so you have these neat little water spots on your paper that's, you know, really pretty if you know, like mixed media and that kind of look. So that's how I kind of created the green or teal background. And I was inspired to do that from the colors in the photo, and just because I know teal and purple go really well together. And so on my photo, I've got a frame here that I altered a little bit because it was right here, but I cut away the bottom part of it, and I wasn't really planning to put it back because I thought, well, I don't really need it. But then later I thought, well, I can, so why don't I? So I came back and I added the bottom part of the frame right in. It's covered by the title and covered by the florals. So behind, I did the same thing as these other two products. I've added in a ticket and one of the torn edges from the ephemera pack, another stopwatch, another pocket or note card. This time is the peach one, but you can see the little pinky peach edge right there. I used the laser cut. I think it's the laser cut. The window, yeah. No, the window was from the ephemera pack. I just remember punching out the panes, but the window's from the ephemera pack. So I hadn't used it yet, so I put that down there. And so those were kind of my layers. And then I tucked in the little clock. And then I also tucked in this viewfinder. But before doing that, or I added that to my photo, actually. And then I used some clusters from the laser cuts and then some individual flowers to make this little cluster right over here. I added in these extra little leaf stems. And then I decided last minute to use the butterfly, which is from the laser cuts, and just kind of mounted him on top of all that, knowing you could really only see half of it, but I just liked the addition of that right there, and it just kind of filled in a space that I felt like needed something. The title is from the ephemera pack, and then I just added the little gears to continue with kind of the steampunk vintage theme. The florals are from Little Birdie, and they're all ivory like this, but I decided I wanted to colorize them and get them to be teal also. So I used my Rainforest dye re-inker, and I added some water, and I was able to spray my flowers and get that teal color. And I left one of them ivory just so I could have a little contrast there and, you know, blend more with the colors in the photograph. And then over here, I've just tucked in the little toad. No, it's the little rabbit. And put some twine on him. And I added some pearls. These little stems are from the laser cuts. Here is the one of the vines. And I added some sisal to this cluster as well, I see. And then the butterflies, of course, are from the laser cut. This is from the cover sheet of the laser cuts, and if I pulled it out, you know, there's images on the back of that you can fussy cut, which is really nice, because otherwise you just have something to throw away or whatever. So I cut out these little suitcases, and then I had this little random flower, which I think fell off of my vine, and so I thought that would be cute, kind of laying on top of the suitcases. And then the photograph is on a couple of pieces of corrugated cardboard to give it dimension. And so that's kind of how everything came together. This, of course, was adhered to my paper once I had all that color on. And I think I did come back and add a little bit right there because it didn't have enough. I splattered at the end with some shimmers, Gold Digger. It's a color splash, but I saw some gold in the flowers, and so I wanted to enhance the flowers with some more gold, and so I added that. And then I also had some of the rainforest color left, and so I splattered with the rainforest color as well. So that's how that one came together. And number 4 almost didn't happen because I don't know. I was doubting myself, or doubting my ability to get it done, I guess you would say. And but I had already picked out this piece of paper that it's just, you know, kind of framed in piece of paper. The back side has the vines down, and I think this one's called Chasing Vines or something like that. And so I thought, well, you already have a frame for your photo, so the eye is going to be, you know, drawn directly to the photo if I did a photo in the center. And I really did want to scrap this photo here. So I just took it one step at a time, and I, you know, picked out my layers. I kept it simple. I did the same thing I've done, you know, throughout all this whole kit, you know, adding these random bits from the ephemera pack. And then this piece right here was from a pattern paper that I didn't use. And so I cut away about a 4-inch strip, and then I tore it, you know, right there, and used it kind of as my foundation. And I brought it down a little bit so that, you know, I could put the doily right there. And then I think I walked away from it at that point, but then I came back and I started adding in these laser clusters here and here. I knew I wanted one to go kind of right here on the edge so I could mount my photo on it. And I got all of those in. Some of these are singles, but most of them are clusters like I showed you earlier. And then I took one vine and cut it in half and stuck it in there. And these flowers, actually, when I was coloring my chipboard, I had some gesso on the mat already, so I went ahead and, you know, daubed those and shabbied them up before I even put them on the photograph. But I kind of forgot about the Prima chipboard. I think it was stuck between a couple of papers. And so don't forget about it being in your kit. Use it up. It looks really pretty. So you can give it some tooth with either gesso, like white gesso, or white acrylic paint, although, you know, that's going to be more like a resist. But and then add your color in with, you know, whatever manner you like. I started with the camouflage, and it was coming across really gray. But, you know, if you look at it, that would make sense with it being on a chipboard piece. And it would have matched the papers just fine, but I kind of wanted a little bit more green to go along with my photo. So I came back with Green Jean from 41 and Market, which is one of our first release colors. And that gave me a little bit more depth of green. And I like the way that looks. So I combined those. And then the purple part was created with the Twilight. And then that was a little, that wasn't too dark. It just, I needed more interest. So I came back with the Lavender Kisses, and I added that in kind of in the center to give it more of a mixed look. And then I came back, and when I splattered the page, you know, I knew white splatters would land on there, and, you know, I was able to tuck that in right there. And of course I hadn't used any banners yet, so I grabbed a couple of banners and stuck them, you know, underneath this floral cluster over here. And of course, I think I already told you about the vines right here. And, you know, those were cut apart and then added in. And then just the little butterflies, which is from the laser cuts. So everything came together really easily. And so if you just work in stages or, you know, create steps for yourself. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know where I was when I was talking, but I was just trying to encourage you to, if you don't have a good block of time to create, or there's some other reason why you can't do a whole scrapbook page at one time, just break it up into steps and, you know, do your paper choices, then any mixed media you're going to use. Then focus on your focal area and the clusters that you might want to put underneath it. Then your floral clusters, if you're going to add those. And then embellishments, you can do it at a different time. And by that, I mean things like pearls and butterflies and stickles, any extra little details like that are additional. You know, your chipboard you probably should do ahead of time and do it separately. Have it ready for whenever you're ready to assemble. And then just kind of do everything in stages, and then your last little piece. I did want to show you this, that one of my projects had screws on it, and I just wanting to show you that the screws are kind of inside the frames in the die cut pack. And so that's where they were. I only found 2 little tiny ones. There may be more. If you look at the photo, it looks like there's, but you know, there's just little groups of different ones. And so you might have to hunt around for it, but that's where you will find them. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks for coming by. I hope this is helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you like doing a talk through video at times that I'm not able to do a process video, and let me know. So enjoy crafting, enjoy your kit, and talk later. Bye-bye.